Hi there, this is Galen Nuttall, and welcome to the latest episode of A Clean Bill of Wealth. This is the podcast for Canadian physicians who are seeking clarity when it comes to financial decisions. In today's episode, I'm going to pose a question. Do you have a plan, or do you have a collection of products? So the reason I pose this question is because one of the most common conversations I end up having with physicians is they ask me, should I own such and such a product? Like, should I open one of these types of investment accounts, or should I buy one of these types of investments, or should I buy this or that insurance product? And a lot of times it's because they've heard they should own it, or they've heard from people who are happy they own it, and they're wondering if they should or not. Or sometimes they already own something and they're wondering if they should keep it. And the reason why this comes up a lot is because a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with this, but just the process that a lot of people come about having their financial landscape is they pick up products along the way. And then they're not sure if it all works together. So, for example, I talked to a physician last week, and he told me, he's like, Galen, I'm experiencing some FOMO. So fear of missing out, in case you don't know what FOMO is, because they were wondering if there's something they should be doing, but they aren't. And another interesting thing this person told me is they're actually feeling guilty that they hadn't figured it all out yet. If there's a sense of, I've been in practice long enough, I should have figured all this out by now, but I've been just too busy to figure it out. And that's a pretty common thing I hear. Now, the way that I look at it is as people pick up products along the way, it's pretty common, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I'll give you an example of this. So I meet a lot of physicians who, they got disability insurance while they're in med school or when they were a resident physician. So it made sense at the time they got it. Sometimes cost was an issue when they got it at that time, so they didn't get like maybe the best kind or the most robust kind, but they got what made sense at the time. Then they started practice, and then a couple years in, maybe it's like, okay, maybe I better incorporate. And now I've got kids, so I'm going to open up RSPs. And, there's a new account now, the FHSA, to save up for your first home. So these are all things that people start to pick up along the way. And those are types of accounts that I've talked about so far, but even types of investments inside of those accounts. And then sometimes people open up, get an income property, or do real estate investing. I mean, there's just a whole slew of things that people can do. So a lot of times what happens is I meet with some physicians who have they're a couple years into practice. They've been sort of collecting these things along the way, whether they just kind of heard it was a good idea, or they did some research and figured out it was a good idea, or someone who sells the stuff told them it was a good idea. And what oftentimes happens is that they haven't taken the time to pause and then take a look at, does all this fit together? Do all these things that I've collected along the way make sense? And so it's kind of like if someone took a box of puzzle pieces and kind of flipped it over on a table, and all these puzzle pieces land on the table, but they didn't give me the cover of the box to know what the puzzle is supposed to look like. So maybe there's some puzzle purists out there that don't look at the cover of the box. I certainly do, to at least know what I'm making here. So it's kind of like doing that, kind of like dumping these puzzle pieces on a table, and we don't really know what we're building with it. And so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any one of those individual products or individual accounts, but sometimes by the time I've met with someone, it doesn't all fit together. So I'll give you an example. I had a doctor book a call with me 2 weeks ago, and they said that they're being encouraged to take on a product, a rather expensive product in this case. I'm not going to go into details about what product, but you can kind of, plug and play whatever thing that, you might have been told that you should take on, product or a type of investment account. And they wanted to talk to me because they said, well, the person who is selling this product says that I should buy it. I've heard it's a really good idea from some people. I've heard it's not a good idea from some people. And I really just want to know, is this something I should do or not? Now, the cost of making the wrong decision, or in this specific case, is pretty hefty. The cost of not making a decision that's based on data is pretty hefty. So to talk about the first way that I support physicians with this when someone hires me to create a plan is first step is to understand the big picture in the sense of what's most important to this person, and not just what have I heard that makes sense, or what's this rule of thumb or the back of the napkin, or these approaches where people say everyone should do this or everyone should do that, or no one should do this or no one should do that. There's very few absolutes in that sense when it comes to actual financial planning and product acquisition. So that's why I start at looking at, okay, what does that puzzle look like? What does the cover of that puzzle box look like? And one thing, so that means so to get concrete, that's goals. By when would you like to retire, and what would you like life to look like when you retire? How much do you want to intervene in the lives of your children while you're alive or after you're gone? Do you need to help out your parents with finances? That's a somewhat common thing I see with physicians, depending on family history. Do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to slow down? That's a common one I hear where people say, I don't necessarily want a hard stop retire, but I'd like to slow down to a few days a week at some point in time. How soon can I do that? So these are the types of things that people ask me to help them figure out. And if you're worried and sitting there thinking, but Galen, I don't have a concrete goals yet, that's fine. A lot of people don't, actually. It's pretty common that people get in front of me and they say, hey, part of why I want to work with you is because you're going to help me figure out what these goals are. And I just ask a lot of questions to help people clarify those goals. And it's pretty common. And so I'd say that out in the world of people sitting around having conversations and figuring things out, it's not necessarily all that common for a person to sit around and say, I've really figured out exactly when I want to retire, exactly what I want that to look like, what it's going to cost to do that. I mean, pretty rare that someone has done that. So don't feel bad if you don't have those goals all figured out, because that's the first step in the process where I support people. Now, the second thing that I look at, so, to use this example of this person that says, hey, Galen, I've been in practice for a while. I've got all these retained earnings. I'm being told I'm supposed to do certain things with them. I say, so has anyone shown you the data, right? That the data of the cost of not doing this is higher, in the sense of the negative impact of not doing this is higher than if you do it, and the positive impact of doing it is higher than not doing it. Has anyone shown you a data-driven decision matching what's most important to you, and it's not compromising your other goals? So in this case, this person doesn't have that yet. So the first step is the whole puzzle. What does it all look like? And then where does this product fit? And using data. Because I find that not a lot of times that data is used to defend decisions in the financial planning world. And so to be really clear, what I'm talking about is fee-based financial planning. A lot of people are used to buying a product and then getting some advice around that product, and maybe not a look at a holistic plan. But what I'm talking about is fee-based financial planning. In my case, when people hire me, they pay me to create a plan, and then they can implement it wherever they want. One of the things I hear commonly when I've delivered a plan is that people can see the big picture now, and they can see the concrete next steps to take in the near future and in the distant future. And it helps mitigate what I was talking about, that fear of missing out, that FOMO, where a lot of times what a plan does is not only does it tell you what makes sense to actually do, but it also helps show what actually doesn't make sense to do, which helps add clarity to people's lives, because they're no longer sitting there wondering, is this something I need to be doing just because I've heard it's really good, or I've heard that other people like doing it. And that clarity and focus and elimination of fear of missing out is a bit of not exactly the main thing that people think they're going to get from a plan, but it can end up being quite an impactful thing, is to not only figure out what to do, but also what not to do. And so people don't have to necessarily sit around and thinking about second guessing or missing out, or by not taking certain things on. So if you can identify to what I've said today, and maybe you feel like you've collected a bunch of products, kind of like those puzzle pieces, but aren't sure if they all belong or how they all fit or what that big picture is going to look like, and you'd like to have someone guide you to define your goals, map out how to attain them using data, not hearsay, but actual data in your individual situation, feel free to book a call at the link in the description. The purpose of that call is to talk, figure out where you're at, figure out where you want to be, and I will let you know if a fee-based plan will answer your biggest questions. Take care, and see you on the next episode.